Good day, everybody. Whoop, a bit of a back audio. There we go. Well, one of my favorite things in the logistics universe to talk about is freight tech. I think technology is going to be a big part of what we do moving forward, no matter what part of the equation you're on, whether you're obviously a freight broker or a trucking company or a mixture of both, just with, obviously separate business divisions. Whatever the case may be, I think freight tech is going to be changing the game in the positive light if done correctly. So, depending on that company, that tech company's goals, that will really ultimately determine how they go about their business, if they will be a successful freight tech provider or not. Also, in addition to this, if that freight tech company is providing quality services to all parties involved in a transaction, that's where you're going to get a lot of positive feedback from these parties, and you're going to be able to scale a lot quicker from that perspective as well. If you build a platform that's strictly shipper dependent only, you're not going to see much success. If you're building one just strictly for carriers, you're not going to see success. If you build one just strictly for freight brokers, you're not going to see success. You have to be able to cater to all parties involved in all logistics transactions, particularly if you're building a freight tech out there that's for sourcing, tendering, quoting, bidding, or tracking, visibility. If it's an all-in-one solution for your customers, you will have to cater to all parties involved in every transaction. Your programming, your coding has to be able to keep up with the demand. It has to keep up with the certain type of recommendations or needs of each customer. One of the biggest things in freight tech that has to be really considered is the payments. The payments part, it's almost like working backwards. You can do a great job on everything from quoting, tendering, awarding to the assignment of different equipment types, assignment of drivers, all the dispatching side of the equation as well. Everything can go as planned, but if you don't have your payments tab or structure or piece of the puzzle in place, it'll be difficult to entice carriers first and foremost to join your platform. Likewise, if you don't have programs for freight brokers, it'll be very difficult for them to be enticed to join and to be a part of the logistics landscape of your platform. And what I mean by instant payments is coming up with a solution to pay your carriers or your service providers faster than you otherwise would. And these payment solutions can be anything like, let's say a carrier picks up a load through the platform, delivers it through the platform. All the communication is perfect. As soon as that load delivers, you want to be able to pay that carrier immediately. And this is going to be one of the next thing in the next 5 years of freight tech, where these solutions will have to be put in place. Whether that means these freight tech companies will have to go to financial institutions or factoring companies or somebody that can provide scheduled payments immediately to the providers of the assets, to the trucking companies. Whether that's the case or not, instant payments are going to be a differentiator between your freight tech platform and somebody else's. In addition to this, geofencing will be a big part of the delivery concept or the delivery part of your freight tech platform. You're going to have geofencing to confirm pickup, to confirm delivery, to confirm correct address of delivery, to confirm where that asset is on the visibility side of things. Geofencing is going to be a big deal. You should be looking at implementations or a structure that will allow geofencing to be a part of your freight tech stack. And you're going to definitely have to consider this when you're building your product out. You want to have a one platform that it's like one go-to platform for quoting, tendering, dispatching, tracking, issue resolving, payments, invoicing, everything on one platform where it's a smooth transition from each instance. So from quote all the way down to payment, finalizing of payment to the carrier, and the receipt of the payment of the carrier or freight broker, depending what your platform model looks like. You will have to make sure that you have a very smooth transition from one tab, so to speak, to the other, because we're in an ever so developing and ever so transitioning and digitizing world where these transactions will have to be a Kanban method type, where it's going to have to be switching back and forth and just reorganize things on the go quickly within seconds. We cannot be taking, on average, 2 hours to tender out a shipment to a carrier or dispatch that truck to pickup. Whether the pickup is tomorrow or in 15 minutes, that quote to dispatch portion should not be 2 hours. It should be a 5 minute at worst task to do. And so getting there, you have to make sure you have a very smooth transition from one instance to the other. And this can only come through the correct back end development and an ease of use front end development that allows this to happen. And the reason I mentioned payments on all of this is because cash flow is a big issue for trucking companies. Cash flow can literally mean from you breaking even, or from you having to go and find other means to pay people, pay your payroll, your fuel expenses, your tolls, any kind of unexpected breakdowns. And so to be able to be paid immediately to recuperate those funds or have those funds in advance will mean a lot for trucking companies to be enticed to be willing to participate on your platform, bid on loads and such, right? You don't want to be having payment terms of 60 days. That's not the future. You don't want payment terms of 90, 120 days. That is not the future. So you want to find a way to mitigate these kind of financial risks and find a way in, so that way it's a smooth transition from quote all the way to payment. In addition to all of this, automated uh, tendering, automated tracking should be the norm in the next few years. Um, I've already seen it. I've seen some tech platforms out there for the freight industry where you're talking now back and forth between you and a database. So it's no longer you talking and trying to negotiate rate as a trucking company or a freight broker with another human being. In essence, it's more like the data set of what's available for any specific lane, and then you as a freight broker using that platform will be able to set parameters for every single load, where then a carrier can negotiate back and forth with your data set and not necessarily with you. So then you can focus on other things. So, what I mean by that is, let's say a load is $2,000 total. That means you got that much from the shipper and you want a carrier to be, you know, 1600, for example. And that carrier comes at you and says, we need 1900 for this. And then the system will tell them uh, the best price possible or counter offer is 1600, and then the carrier can come back, say our counter offer is 1700, and then you can come back, or the system can come back and say 1650. And so it negotiates back and forth with the input of the bids to come out on the other end with an automated tender. In addition to that, obviously, book it now functionalities have been out there for a few years already, but book it now functionalities will definitely be the norm. It kind of decreases the workflow, decreases the amount of time you go back and forth for the bids between freight broker and carrier and shipper, freight broker, whatever that case may be, whatever that platform is for. So I really do see a use for that moving forward. In addition to this, automated tracking should be next level coming up in the next 5 years. It should not be a way to enter into somebody's privacy or somebody's security or decrease their sense of security. Absolutely not. Nor should it be used to distract drivers. But what you can do is implement standard operating procedures before you even dispatch a load and before that e-log even starts for that truck to move to pickup, where you have tracking in place that can be integrated through API technologies out there between your platform and the carrier that's running the load. And moving forward, that's probably going to be the absolute norm in the industry. There's a lot of tracking companies out there that will be more than willing to listen to you to see what kind of partnerships you can come up with. Um, you got to come up with a partnership and a solution to this tracking problem where you're not intervening in a driver's daily operations, safe operations of a heavy duty vehicle. This does not mean that your tracking capabilities involve manual processes of you reaching out to drivers at 3 a.m. while they're on their break to find out a current location. It means there are pings associated with the unit and the product that is being used to track, and there's a communication between the platform and the truck always. And so the trucker, the professional CDL holder, never has to be reaching out or calling the freight broker to give updates, nor does the freight broker or shipper have to reach out to carrier for updates for any specific load. And so this automation process doesn't mean you're taking away from jobs. It means that you are streamlining that process, and you're also mitigating risk so you don't get involved in any kind of, God forbid, nuclear verdicts, God forbid, any kind of issues that happen on the road where a driver does something because he's distracted by your phone call. It could be serious liability issues. Again, there are lawyers out there that can help with those scenarios if they do ever happen. But I would always say that that would not be the preferred method of going that way, where you have to be in a litigation to find out who is not at fault for some, God forbid, accident or fatality to happen because of your check call. And so these automated tracking issues have to be resolved in the next 5 years and moving into the new decade in 7 years or so. So this is really some things that people can take into account. If you listening are building out a freight tech platform, you have to take into consideration geofencing, payments, instant payments, the cash flow issues with the carriers, the automated tracking, the automated tendering. This all has to be a part of what you're building out in order to be successful and be able to scale appropriately. And I'm giving this out for free because I know what it takes to build one. I have heard feedback from shippers. I have heard feedback from freight brokers. I have heard feedback from freight forwarders. And I have heard some really, really rough feedback from carriers. And I don't mean rough in terms of bad, I mean constructive criticism, like, I would not use a platform that does this. I would not use a platform that does this. What entices me is this. And one of the primary concerns always comes down to the payments, always comes down to the tracking issues in terms of distraction and having to give out drivers' phone numbers. So finding a way around these objections by providing solutions and not just selling a product because you want to make money, but actually having solutions in place to do this is a way forward. This could be maybe you taking all of this information into consideration, taking the seed I'm planting in your brain and developing a solution to these problems that can actually later on down the line prove to be very lucrative for yourself, but also you're changing the industry for better, for the driver, for the freight broker involved, for the shippers involved, for the consignees involved, everybody involved in any single transaction. And so I love freight tech. I tried really hard to build one out for 3 years. I'm still going at it. It is not an easy process, but we are taking into consideration the feedback given from these parties, right? And also, if I can make a suggestion, if you are getting into this field as an engineer or a software developer or someone that's outside of the field of logistics, get yourself consulted very well by a logistics provider, by a logistics professional, or hire a logistics professional to actually be part of your building team, of your team that builds this product out. Because I'm telling you right now, you will need somebody with experience in logistics experience truncates everything below it. It really does wonders if you have somebody on the team, whether that's a truck driver, a shipper that deals with the supply chain of companies, or somebody that deals with the engineering of routes, like a load planner, or a logistics engineer, or of course a freight broker, a freight forwarder, someone that deals with different modes of transportation that can get you those end results or get you what you need in order for you and your beautifully smart-minded, well-educated individuals like engineers to build this product out. The benefits I've seen, or validations that I've seen through this, is the individuals that got into a partnership with myself to build out a freight tech platform used my expertise in full. I showed them the ins and outs of everything, my pain points, my issues in regards to payments, in regards to quoting, in regards to sourcing of carriers, in regards to tendering, tracking, dispatching, and communication. Communication in terms of real time visibility, real time communication, of real time stamped uh, discussions and conversations that take place between a dispatching team and a carry and a freight broker or a shipper, really do go a long way, because you are able to build out a system that actually hits at these pain points so that way you're a resolution rather than just adding to the problem, right? Rather than just to be another issue, another part of the problem. So with that being said, take this into consideration when you're building out these freight tech platforms. I have people reach out to me all the time asking for this advice. This is the bare bones. This is like the skeleton of your system. If you don't put these things in place, you cannot build a freight tech platform. These are pain points that carriers deal with and freight brokers deal with, and freight forwarders deal with in part. Obviously, freight forwarders have some additional things. So if you're technically going after the freight forwarding individuals, or that's your niche in terms of what you're focusing on to build out these systems, you would have to integrate with customs portals, so customs brokers, different customs for different countries, imports and export processes. You're going to have a very, very good, again, I'm using this term lightly, tab. It doesn't have to be a tab, but I'm saying a portion or part of your platform has to be solely dedicated on having the correct documentation and making sure these documents are available for people to download, templates to download, um, ways to digitally fill these documents out, digitally have them confirmed and verified, and digitally have these exchanged through safe tendering methods, interchange methods, whether that's EDI or whatever kind of implementation you take into consideration, um, in order to exchange with the different governing bodies when it comes to regulations and compliance issues, specifically for freight forwarding or cross border moves, whether you're dealing with US to Mexico, Canada, US Canada, US to Mexico, and Mexico to Canada, Canada to Mexico, or worldwide, globally speaking, for any economic zone or economic region of the world where you're going to have to implement this. So again, this is very important to keep in mind, very important to take this into consideration when you're building these systems out. If you have any further questions, you don't have to reach out to me. There's plenty of people out there that are also and have been in logistics for a long time. I've been doing this for 14 years. I understand what it takes, as I've been involved in the process as well on the tech side of things. So I get it. I get the difficulties and the pain points surrounding each party. And so if you do have questions for me specifically, you can always reach out to me via YouTube, or via LinkedIn. You can find me very easily and go from there and start, and always come with a plan. Always design a plan before you start coding and start fidgeting around with the codes. First, design your plan of what you want it to look like, how you want it to function, and what pain points you want it to resolve. and this will take you a long way. This will help you achieve your goals in the freight tech development niche of products available. And this actually applies also, believe it or not, to your TMS providers out there. If you're building out a TMS, this is very important things to take into consideration when you're building these systems out as well. And obviously, there's going to be companies or customers out there that are going to want you to solely tailor to their solutions. Again, you could tailor and customize and have customizable products. That's fine as well. You just have to make sure that you have the bare minimums and the skeleton available to build off of, and that you can integrate each part to the other parts. And so, yeah, so that'll be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this, found this content valuable, and we'll be in touch again. I really love freight technology. I'm always willing to look at different freight tech platforms out there to see who has done what and how they have built it out the right way. So, again, thank you, and God bless, and we'll talk about more freight tech stuff in the coming months. So, cheers.